bọ́jọ́ bá pẹ́ títí ọjọ́ àpín o bọ́nà bá jìnnà jìnnà àdópin o àti sáré àdópin aré àmàtìjìyà àdópin ìyà o àti sunsun àti kan ògiri ó má ti gbẹ̀yìn kọ́ lọ́tẹ̀ ìmọ̀ o bẹ́ẹ̀ ni o.
ilé òní gbóná kárẹ́nu omi kọ́lé ayé òní kóró kálọ̀ dífá ọ̀run o láyé náà la ó wà títà ó fi ṣẹ́gun lójú àwọn ọlọ́tẹ̀ ẹkún akọjá òkùnkùn ajímọ́lẹ̀ fáwa ọmọ Yorùbá ọjọ́ ayọ̀ súnmọ́lé o.
Ó di láéláé pọ́n gbá ó mà di láéláé pọ́n gbá Yorùbá ò ní dọ̀bálẹ̀ ẹ̀fẹ́ nìkan ó di gbẹ̀yìn kọ́ lọ́tẹ̀ ìmọ̀ o.
yé ẹ dìde dìde bí ológun ẹ bá jàgà sílẹ̀ o ẹ rántí àtọmọdọ́mọ kò ní sún wa kò ní rẹ̀ wá bá ó fi ṣẹ́gun tẹni tó dé ó sàn ju ẹni tirẹ̀ ń bọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ ni ò ní ní dúró kẹ́dúró gbọ̀n kẹ́dúró gbọ̀n kẹ́dúró gbọ̀n 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 àtùpàgbé oníkan ní òbí ẹ bá sùn ẹgbẹ́ ọjọ́ ayọ̀ súnmọ́lé o.
mo tún fi Ọlọ́run tó dá mi búra mi ò mọ Tinubu rí mi ò rí rí sójú pé èèyàn ríyàn fisikálẹ̀ o kò mọ̀ mí mi ò mọ̀ ẹ̀yin èèyàn mi Igbo South àti Yorùbá àti Northerners lórí àwa Yorùbá nìkan tí mi preceiver tí mi bá ṣì ọmọ South ni actor tí wọ́n mú yìí ọmọ East ni Enugu ló ń gbé tí mi preceiver ọmọ South ni governor ni ṣé kìí ṣe governor Bayelsa pàápàá former governor Bayelsa state ni lórí Yorùbá nìkan náà pawọ́pọ̀ yẹn àwa Yorùbá náà tún máa wá bá wọn pé ó pẹ́kọ́ tó pàdánù èyí kàkẹ́kẹ́ kíníkà àwọn alámájìyẹ wà náà àwọn alámájìyẹ àtọ̀tọ̀ gbé yẹn gbogbo aláwọ̀ pé Ìgbò láìkì Tinubu rárá nítorí ẹni tó ń fà á lẹ̀ tí ò wọlé dọ̀là Ìgbò sì fi ní pé Tinubu jígbò gbé ni ó jígbò gbé kó jígbò gbé ìtókè mi ni pé àníkàwà já nǹkan tá a fẹ́ gbàgbà kíjọba tó expire kí Fúlàní tó bọ́ síbẹ̀ tàbí kí Ìgbò tó bọ́ síbẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ bá Ìgbò kan léni tó bá máa sọ̀rọ̀ a ní stolen mandate and I often ask tell me lẹ́yìn ìbò Abíọ́lá tọ̀jẹ̀ kó débẹ̀ Yar'Adua dídí sọ ni pé òun sọ́ọ́dì torí bò tó gbó wọlé òpíọ̀ gbogbo yẹn kọ́ lèmi wá sọ tí mo wá sọ ni pé káwa Yorùbá ká mọ bó gan la fẹ́ dáwó wa sí ká mọ bó la fẹ́ máa kí ni criticism ta fẹ́ máa give out and when you give out kí ìdá wa bá máa bá kọ̀ jẹ́ kó má balẹ̀ ara ẹ̀ jẹ́ kó lóun bá àkọ̀ jẹ́ o kó má jẹ́ pé ibi tá a máa tẹ́sùn la fi ń bó kó má bàa ṣẹlẹ̀ tán ká má bàa blame ara wa ká má bà wọn sínú ẹ̀ o pé kíjọba tó wà lẹ́yìn kó bọ́ tó bá bọ́ ẹ̀tọ́ Yorùbá ti bọ́ tó bá bọ́ ọ̀nà àti dé ilẹ̀ lérí wa ọ̀rọ̀ wa ò yàtọ̀ sí 99 tó lóhun ò ní bó kan ṣe o àti 100 ẹ̀ máa lé o àti 100 ẹ̀ máa lé ṣáìlà kọ́ ló kọ́ ni ọ̀kàndínlógójì tó lóhun ò ní bó kan ṣe àti dógójì ẹ̀ máa nira fún bẹ́ẹ̀ gan ló ṣe rí o mi ò gbà mo tún fi Ọlọ́run tó dá mi búra mi ò mọ Tinubu rí mi ò rí rí sójú pé èèyàn ríyàn fisikálẹ̀ o bọ́ẹ̀wọ̀ advantage torí pòun ló wà ń bẹ̀ à ń dúpẹ́ lórí Ìgbòho lẹ́nì ìbàjẹ́ Fúlàní ló tún padà síbẹ̀ ni kò sí ìlú títí Ìgbòho wà sẹ̀ bàbá a ti kọrin àfẹ́ kó lọ fún ṣé n tán lọ ṣe lé ẹ̀yẹ dáa ni wọ́n mọ̀ pé ká ní Yorùbá ló wà nípò Yorùbá kò ní dánwó ẹ̀ wò kò sí bó ṣe lè ya wèrè tó kò ní dánwó ẹ̀ wò. àwọn Fúlàní tó panu mọ́ sí tán sọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀yin mọ́ bí tán fẹ́ bá yọ lọ́la bóyá orí kúpì gan lọ́gbọ́kànlé but àti dúpẹ́ fọlọ́run pé yẹn ti yẹ kí mi ìbá má tún ṣẹlẹ̀ mọ́ torí kí la mọ̀ lẹ́yìn eléyìí àwọn wo la mọ̀ tán tó sì ń plan lábẹ́lẹ̀ bó o bá jẹ́ Yorùbá tó wà nù wọn lábẹ́lẹ̀ tètè padà sẹ́yìn níṣe ni ìdá wa ló ń gbẹ́ ilé ẹ̀ ló balẹ̀ ara ẹ̀ jẹ́ yẹn o alóhùn bá kọ̀dẹ̀ inú ẹ̀ dùn wọ́n máa lé Tinubu kó bẹ̀ tán bá lé tí Fúlàní bá bọ́ síbẹ̀ wàláhì tábàjẹ́ pásápásá àyà ẹ pè mí lọ́mọ àlè àwa Yorùbá kò ní dá o kò ní dá o kò ní dá gbà tí mo rí mo rò pé wẹ́ ó dá ká wá a lè má mọ̀ àwọn èèyàn lè má ronú débẹ̀ àwọn èèyàn lè má ro débẹ̀ bọ́ tèmi sì ṣe ládùúrà ni pé àdìkọ́ lọ jẹ́ àríjágbànà kí Tinubu tó kú òun bẹ́ẹ̀ ó ládùúrà ti tèmi káti because a lè má bá lọ báyìí náà lágbára Ọlọ́run new program wa tí à ń ṣe ní BGI searching for a spot hero inú mi ò dùn torí pé àwọn Yorùbá mi wò rárá owó dẹ̀ ti tán kẹlẹ̀ àti náwó sí gan although new product bó ṣe máa ń rí nìyẹn bọ̀ mi ò ní yé sọ ní gbogbo program searching for a spot hero eré ìdárayá la fi ṣe lóòótọ́ kìí ṣe ní Yorùbá àmọ́ ṣe lédè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì kí gbogbo èèyàn kan lè jàǹfààní nínú ẹ̀ ní ayé mọ́ BGI TV sí ètò àwọn iṣẹ́ channel àgbàlagbà ẹ̀rọ àwọn tó wọ̀ tó mọ̀ wá lu òyìnbó àwọn dádì wa àwọn ọmọ mi wà ló mọ̀ wá àwọn ọ̀dọ́ òta sí nílùú òyìnbó wọ́n á wò pé kí la lè ṣe ní channel yìí tá a tún lè fi kó ọ̀dọ́ náà mọ́ra làwa ní ká ṣe ètò eré ìdárayá which is searching for a sports hero àwọn tí wọ́n dẹ̀ wá participate so far àwọn náà lè sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ bá bí wọ́n torí pé gbogbo wọn náà rí dùnú ní látara ètò yìí nínú ilé wọn kódà àwọn míì àti ẹ̀ máa sọ pé àfi kí program yìí kó go viral nǹkan tó dáa ní o fine nígbà táwọn èèyàn kọ̀ tán bá wò kọ́ kí ni ká ṣe mọ́mí wa tẹ́ bá nífẹ̀ẹ́ mi lóòótọ́ owó tó ti lọ sí program yẹn kì í ṣe 40 million tẹ́yìn èèyàn bá wò ó waste ẹ lọ bá mi searching for a sport hero episode 1 to 6 ti wà ń ta ó ti wà lórí channel wa kan náà yìí ẹ lọ wò èyíkéyìí tẹ́ bá rí wò nú ẹ̀ ó ti dáa bí n gbọ́dọ̀ ní 80,000 subscribers kádẹ̀rí 1,000 tí tó máa wo àwọn sports show tá a ṣe we spent almost 40 million láti ná sí program yẹn ẹ bá wa lọ wò searching for a sports hero ẹ lọ bá wa wò it's a program you people will love ẹ jẹ́ káwọn ọmọ yín náà kàn wò ní àwẹ̀ òun la máa tún bẹ̀rẹ̀ recording mi so gbẹ̀yìn tó bá ní interest ẹ bá mọ̀ passport ẹ máa prepare sílẹ̀ láti wá join wa it's a quiz program adẹ̀wá sponsor fún o ẹni bá ní interest ẹ̀yin oníléeṣẹ́ ńláńláńlá ẹ wá sponsor ẹ̀ you are free a lè change orúkọ yẹn gan tá a máa fi African Cup of Nations là ń pè CAF là ń pè Nations Cup tẹ́lẹ̀ but I discover pé láti bí ọdún bí 10 years sígbà sẹ́yìn sí ẹ̀kọ́ máa rí pé orúkọ àwọn tí wọ́n bá sponsor program yẹn ó ní CAF fi pé Nations Cup ń sìn ìta gbá lọ tán yìí Total Energy Nations Cup náà pè torí pé Total Energy ló sponsor ẹ̀ Glo tó ń ṣe fóònù ní Nàìjíríà wọ́n ti sponsor ẹ̀ rí Globalcom Nations Cup náà pè nígbà yẹn so eléyìí náà program ti wà yìí náà àwa náà ready láti change akọ́kọ́ sọ pé kinní kan searching for a sport hero ẹni tó bá ready láti sponsor ẹ̀ àyè wà ẹ pè phone number mi òun ló ràn lábẹ́ tẹ́ẹ̀rí yẹn call my phone number 081 30 67 23 61 tẹ́ bá ti ready tí iléeṣẹ́ yín ńláńlá yẹn bá ready a máa pọ̀ ẹ̀yin láwọn máa polówó nú ẹ̀ interfast stand ní láàrin program yẹn olówó company yín ló máa jẹ́ ẹ̀yin láwọn máa ṣọ́ àwọn aṣèjíngù fún yín gan tí wọ́n máa polówó product yín so bó ṣe rí nìyẹn oníyanṣẹ́ ọlọ́kà ṣe gbà tí àwọn ètò yìí gbà náà la dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ẹ̀ pé ẹ ṣeun tó bá tẹ́ bá rí pé ó wọ́t kẹ́ bá mi pín ó yẹ pín tí ó bá wọ́t kẹ́ pín ẹ fi sílẹ̀ but tó bá ń tẹ́ bá rírò sí program yìí ẹ kọ sí comment tó bá yẹ kẹ́ like ẹ náà ẹ like ẹ kò ṣe dandan. Then ẹ wo bí tán kọ subscribe sí kẹ́ bá wa subscribe sí. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ń wò lórí Facebook ẹ wo bí tán kọ follow sí kẹ́ follow wa.
We greet you all in the name of Olodumare. I'm greeting all Yoruba people throughout the world for your patience with us, for your steadfastness, and for being always there for us at all times. Today promises to be interesting. Today promises to be very, very educative. Today's topic is the comparison between understanding empire building expansionism and how our world has been changed and how our world has been shaped by some human lifestyles that many people did not actually pay attention to. Once again, my name is Oladimeji Bolarawa, the president of Think Yoruba First organization. We are discussing a very powerful topic today, which is understanding cowboys and axemen and how they were used as historical tools of domination, as historical tools of empire building. It's a lot of people, I know many of us growing up watched a lot of movies, especially cowboy movies, where we saw the way cowboys were very wide with their slinging pistols, you know, attacking Native Americans, fighting themselves, the wide west. Many of us actually did not understand the political, the demographical, and historical connotation, and how those cowboys actually created and solidified the American identity and the American borders. So what about X-Men? Every day people see X-Men. X-Men is a national issue, not just in Nigeria, not just in West Africa, not just in Central Africa, and even in North Africa, East Africa, and Southern Africa. So this is an issue that needs to be properly discussed so that we can properly understand the politics behind things that have happened in the past and things that are currently happening now in our lifetime. Nothing is absolutely new under the sun. And because nothing is new under the sun, we must understand how the real politics behind things. Many of us understand, we talk about the American Revolution. And when we talk about the American Revolution was just a revolution where the 13 colonies of America, which was created by the United Kingdom, rebelled against United Kingdom, and the settlers took over the sovereignty of the 13 colonies, and that was what gave rise to the United States of America. The United States of America was just a small piece of land that was located in the Eastern Territory along the Atlantic of current-day United States of America. The 13 colonies were merely almost just roughly 15 to 10% of the current landmass of America. So you have to understand that the reason why, the reason for the American Revolution that the founding fathers of America are always claiming was because they believe that all men are born equal. And one of the reasons why they revolted against the British Crown was because they believed that they were fighting colonialism. They were fighting the injustice of men against men. They were fighting for republicanism, they were fighting for egalitarianism, and they were fighting to destroy feudalism. But it is very, very surprising that immediately they got independence. America started, young American country started what was called the Manifest Destiny. The Manifest Destiny was nothing but an expansionist ideology, a supremacist ideology that believed that America must expand from the east to the west, from the Atlantic to the Pacific. It was a very, very brutal, slow-moving, genocidal war machine. And having studied American history, most of the American states and the American expansionism was not actually conducted through symmetrical warfare. The territories America got, all the way from Hawaii to Texas, to California, to New Mexico, to Wyoming, most of these territories were to Oklahoma. Most of these territories were actually gotten through asymmetrical warfare. Asymmetrical warfare was that American settlers, mostly these pastoralists, these nomadic herdsmen that were called cowboys, with their cattle, they will settle in a particular place, change the demography, be fighting against the indigenous Americans, and they will be getting tacit support from the main government, from the American government. And when, in case there is war, one way or the other, the American government comes in, and that place becomes an American territory. States after states, colony after colony, from the lands of the unconquered indigenous nations like the Comanches, and Mexico, Spanish-speaking Mexico, America continued to take more lands and more lands and more lands. So who are the cowboys? So the cowboys were mostly pastoralists who controlled millions. They had millions of cattle, and they were the people that were taking their cattle from the eastern coast, from the east coast, from the Atlantic from the Atlantic to the Pacific. During this period, most of the expansion, the conquests, the territorial gains,
la fi mọ bá ilẹ̀kẹ̀ la fi mọ jòjì èdè wa làmì dání mọ́ wá. pẹ̀lú ìgbìmọ̀ tó kéde Yorùbá kó má dohun ìgbàgbé kó má dohun àfisẹ́yìn tẹ́gun fi sọ. ọ̀mọ̀wé Gbẹ́ngà Fágbọnú ti kó o jáde. dictionary Yorùbá aláwòrán kúnlẹ́kàkì òkun fọ́fọ́ láti ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ dópin ló ṣàtúpalẹ̀ àwọn ọ̀rọ̀ Yorùbá tó ta kókó pẹ̀lú àlàyé lẹ́kùnrẹ́rẹ́ látẹnu olùkọ́ àgbà. kò ṣe é mọ̀ níní fún gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá o àgbàlagbà tàbí àwọn ọmọdé ìsẹ̀yìn. àwọn àkójọpọ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ Yorùbá tó ta kókó tó lé ní ẹgbẹ̀rún mẹ́tàlá pẹ̀lú àwọn àwòrán tí yóò mú òye ọ̀rọ̀ yéni ní kankan. dictionary Yorùbá ti wà jákèjádò ilé ìtajà àti ilé ìkàwé jákèjádò àgbáńláyé. fẹ̀yìn tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ rà tàbí tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ kun lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ janturu. ẹ̀yin tẹ́ wà ní United Kingdom ẹ̀jẹ̀ kò sí ìyáàfin Dorcas Amusan Fagbonu ní 119 Little Houghton Lane Bradford BD5 OHT tàbí kẹ́ ẹ pè wọ́n sórí ẹ̀rọ ọ̀bánisọ̀rọ̀ yìí +447401222557. ẹ̀yin tẹ́ wà lórílẹ̀‐èdè Amẹ́ríkà ẹ máa pọ̀ sí ọ̀gbẹ́ni Olúwaṣọ́ṣọ́yà ní 601 Cypress Station TR Unit 510 Austin Texas tàbí kẹ́pẹ́ wọ́n sórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ +17577273552. ẹ̀yin ti Europe ẹ kàn sí ìyáàfin Mary Buckner Enrichsbo Pittsburgh Ostergaard 3242434 Angel Gogglebox City ní Sweden tàbí kẹ́pẹ́ wọ́n sórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ yìí +4673832999. ẹ̀yin torílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà ìrọ̀rùn ló bá dé o. ní ìpínlẹ̀ Ògùn ẹ máa kàn sí bàbá gbàgede ìmọ̀ tẹlifíṣàn tàbí kẹ́pẹ́ wọ́n sórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ yìí 08130672361. ẹ̀yin ti ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ ẹ pè ọ̀mọ̀wé Victor Taiwo sórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ yìí 08126923916. kò ṣe é mẹ́ni ní o fún gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá o.
And the eradication, the erasure of the indigenous people that took place in the United States of America took place in the 19th century. The 19th century was a century that actually determined a lot of things in the world. The 19th century was a century the Oyo Empire fell, collapsed. The 19th century was the century that gave rise to Ibadan. The 19th century was a century that led to the destruction of the ancient, powerful Yoruba city called Owu. The 19th century was the century where Ijaye was almost erased from the surface of the earth. The 19th century was a century of the bloody, fruitless Kiriji War that happened, civil war that happened in Yoruba land. The 19th century was the century that many people call the years of unending wars. The 19th century was a century that the Yoruba warlord, Field Marshal Generalissimo Afonja, his dynasty was overthrown in Ilorin, and a Yoruba-speaking Fulani dynasty was created, led by Alimi. The 19th century was the century that the Lagos colony was created, where thousands of indigenous Yoruba people were killed in Eko, and the British were able to create that colony as the military outpost, which led to the eventual colonization of the entire the entire Yoruba civilization and Yoruba people, and the entire people of Nigeria and the creation of Nigeria. The 19th century was the century where there was that brutal war of Imagbon between the valiant Ijebu army and the British imperialists. The 19th century was the century of where we had the Berlin West African Conference. The 19th century was a century that actually shaped the world. It is also during this 19th century that America was able to get 60% of the current landmass of America. The ones they could not conquer through war, they got it through asymmetrical warfare. Some they were able to get it through insurgencies. Some they were able to buy it. They bought some from France, Louisiana, bought another one from Alaska, from Russia, called Alaska. So the 19th century was the century that the nomadic people were also able to change the destiny of the world in different places. The cowboys were extremely crucial, extremely critical in the creation of America. Without the cowboys with their cattle, where they were, because it was the cowboys that were able to explore, they were the explorers, with their cattle armed to the teeth, and with their cattle to be able to go to many uncharted territories. And it was the roads, these colonies, these outposts, they called them the frontiers, that was created by the cowboys, these nomadic pastoralists, these European pastoralists, these English-speaking Anglo-Saxon pastoralists. Even though there has been many historical facts and many historical literatures that there were also non-Anglo-Saxon cowboys that were mostly employed by Anglo-Saxon or European cattle owners, cattle rearers. So what is very, very constant in these cowboys, in this cowboy issue, this cowboy phenomenon, was that fundamentally they were nomadic people, they were pastoralists, and they were basically having war with sedentary populations. They were taking their cattle into the farms, into the lands, into the farms of the indigenous people. And during this time, it was called farmer herders crisis. They were saying, oh, the reason why we are moving our cattle was because we needed more lands, was because it is our lifestyle. We are pastoralists. We are never going to change our lifestyle. And they were getting tacit support from Washington, even though the American capital changed in different times. At the point in time, the capital of America was in Pennsylvania before it was taken to Washington. So I'll be using Washington as the capital of America. So they were getting backings from America. They were getting backings from Washington in this expansionist project because they were following a manifest destiny. The indigenous people in the War of 1812, the War of all wars, that was the main war where the indigenous Native Americans, they even got support from the United Kingdom Because after America defeated United Kingdom, and they were able to assert their sovereignty and created the United States of America, a Republican powerhouse. United Kingdom started supporting Native Americans and acting like that because they were the enemy of my enemy is my friend. United Kingdom supported the Native Americans. And maybe they tried arming them, giving them guns and ammunition in order to stop the expansion of America from the Atlantic to the Pacific, from the east to the west. That war was between 1812 and 1815. It was after the indigenous people of America, which they called the Native Americans, when they lost that war, that was that war that sealed their destruction. And many of these, it was called the Frontier Wars. And many of the actors of this war were the cowboys. I hope I've been able to, as many people now understand how America was founded by nomads. America was instituted by nomads. So the nomadic people and their lifestyle, using cattle, their business of cattle rearing, shaped the creation of the most powerful country on the surface of the earth, which is United States of America. Does it sound familiar? It sounds familiar. I'm going to use another example. A good example is South Africa. It was also cattle rearers that created that Southern African identity. I know many of you post-1996 are going to be looking at South Africa as a black country. But for close to 300 to 400 years, so Southern Africa was a white colony. It had a nuclear weapon. It was the most powerful country on the surface on the African continent. It was a white colony. It was a European colony. Even though there was an outpost first created in Table Bay, from there, the creation of Cape Town. But the inward expansion of Dutch settlers, which was sponsored by the VOC. What is the VOC? The VOC is the Dutch East Indian Company. The Dutch East Indian Company was the company responsible for the expansionism of Dutch cattle rearers. They called them the Boers. They were cattle rearers. Most of them were nomads because they were taking their cattle from one place to the other. They are going to stay in one place 1, 2, 3 years. Their cattle are going to eat up the vegetation, eat up the ground. They move to another place. And that was how more and more Dutch settlers, they created different states like Natal, Transylvania, all these orange states that created and shaped South Africa as a white colony. The only thing the indigenous, the nomads, the white nomads, cattle rearers, the Boers did not do in South Africa was to exterminate the indigenous people, like the cowboys did in America. So that was just the difference. If not, the case of South Africa would have been different. South Africa would have been like Australia. South Africa would have been like New Zealand. South Africa would have been like America. And how was this created? It was through nomadism. Cowboys, cattle rearers, they were the ones who shaped the identity of that country called South Africa for 300 to 400 years. Now let us talk about Nigeria. Let's talk about X-Men. Who are the X-Men? What is going on? There is a direct proportionality. And what I will be saying tonight is not going to be propaganda. It is not hate. It is a message to the Yoruba people in Nigeria. It is a message to the Yoruba people of the world. It is a message to all the indigenous people in the world.
Ògbénu omi ríran ń tẹja ògbólógbò egúngún ní dún tàbàntàbà nínú aṣọ ògbólógbò oníṣègùn ìbílẹ̀ kan bẹ nílẹ̀ Yorùbá tọmọ tì fún tẹ̀dọ̀ ewé àti olóyè máyégún adífá bíi ẹni wẹjú aníkúlápó agbọ́sẹsẹ fámọlé agbẹ́ǹkùlé mọye olùtọ́wù ogun àìrọ́mọbí ní tiẹ̀ ní ogun àìrálàánú ló ń bá ayé rẹ̀ wọ̀dì mú àrùn ọjọ́ pípẹ́ ló ń bá ọwọ́ jàǹkadì káṣiṣẹ́ bíi erin jẹ̀jẹ̀ ìlérí ogun àmúbọ̀ ọkọ àmúbọ̀ aya ní tiẹ̀ ní tàbí ogun afinisẹ̀sìn níwájú olóore èyíkéyìí ogun tàbí àìsàn tó máa ń bá ayé rẹ̀ jà tètè máa bọ̀ wá sọ́dọ̀ olóyè máyégún adífábí ẹni wẹjú abólórí bẹ̀rí abániyẹ̀ràwọ̀ ẹni wò aníkúlápó àgbàlagbà ọ̀jìmì tó mọ orúkọ tí wọ́n ń pe àwọn ìyá mi àgbà fún àyẹ̀wò tàbí ìmọ̀ràn ẹ pè sórí nọ́mbà yìí 08023940939 08023940939 báṣẹ́ bá mu mi àjò dànù bí gèrè bá mu mi àjò dànù tilé tọ̀nà la fi ń jolóńgìní tètè máa bọ̀ wá sọ́dọ̀ olóyè máyégún adífábí ẹni wẹjú kógun ayé rẹ̀ ó dà fíẹ́yìn.
For them to listen to this voice of reasoning. Tell your friends and family, because what I'll be saying tonight is extremely critical. Those indigenous people, there were many indigenous people in America in the 19th century that were saying, oh, it's a lie. Oh, it's a lie. Oh, these people do not, it's a manifest destiny, it's just propaganda. There were many people in the Hausa city states who saw that these nomads had another ulterior motives and they were following a particular ideology. And the reality is the use of pastoralism, cattle rearing as a tool of expansionism did not start in America and did not start in South Africa. It has always been for thousands of years. It was something that's always known. That is an occurrence that has happened that is known in Europe. It's an occurrence that happened in Central Asia, in Far East Asia. The Mongolians were nomads. They were nomadic people. The Manchurians that also ruled China were nomadic people. The Turks that took over the Eastern Roman Empire, called the Ottoman Empire, they were nomadic people. The Arabs that conquered, that took over the Cushitic kingdoms were Arabic people. The Arabs that took over the Egyptian Coptic kingdoms were nomadic people. So it is the Fulanis that took over the indigenous Hausa city states were nomadic people. The Tutsis that took over the indigenous Hutu Bantu kingdoms were nomadic people. So nomads have always, the Somalis, they were nomadic people in the conquest of the Bantus in that area of East Africa. So there is a proportionality. There is a proportionality, maybe from the Americas to East Asia, from East Asia to Australia, from every secular colony and many kingdoms that we see currently. It has always been cattle rearers using their business of cattle for empire building, domination, and subjugation of indigenous people. I'm going to come back into history. And when I mean history that happened just 10 years ago. In between 2015 and 2023, brothers and sisters, fellow Nigerians, especially the indigenous people of Nigeria that do not want to lose their land and do not want to become a victim of these ruthless empire builders. Listen to me and give me your ears. The problem we had during the time of Buhari was the problem of cattle and land. During the time of President Buhari, they were killing left, right, and centers. All of a sudden, it became a norm to see Fulani cattle and others armed with AK-47, claiming it is their right to take their cattle all the way from the Sahel into the south, into the unconquered territories. the territories that were not subjugated, the territories that were not brought to their knees, the territories that did not capitulate, the territories that were not Fulanized by Uthman Danfodio. And there were killings left, right, and center. It led to the rise of many self-determination movements all across Nigeria during the time of Buhari. And I remember Femi Adesina, the spokesman person to the late President Buhari, said, it is better you give up your land or you are going to be dead. He said it. And one of the frivolous, ridiculous solutions that the Buhari government brought to Nigerians was that you need to give up your land. You give up 50 miles, left, right, and center of all the rivers. All the rivers. It's not when people talk about rivers, people talk about River Niger and River Benue. All the rivers in Nigeria should be given to the federal government of Nigeria. Can you tell me a conquest that is bigger than that? So all your Ogunpa River, for many of you are from Ibadan, all the Ogunpa River, all the Ogbere River, all the small rivers in your area, all your small streams, all your small rivers, all your small streams, River Ogun, all the Osun River, every of your river in the south. That means many places like the Ijaw people, the Ilaje people, and the Yoruba people of Ishakiris, the Yoruba people of Ilaje that actually live on waters. Their entire, all the river and their tributaries, 50 miles. Ondo State will probably lose almost 70% of its coastal access, of its coastal zone, and be zoned to the Fulanis. And because it's going to be given to the federal government, and to be given, and the federal government is going to take it and settle Fulanis. That is going to be one of the biggest conquests that has happened in Africa for the past 300 years since the formation of the Sokoto Caliphate. Many of us saw it. We fought, we rebelled, we campaigned against it, we resisted peacefully, legally. We lobbied our political leaders, traditional leaders, to tell them how dangerous it is. Because this is conquest. Because we understand. Because look at the entire Yoruba, for most Yoruba cities were founded, Yoruba kingdoms were founded around rivers. Rivers is the foundation of empires. Rivers is the foundation of empires. Without rivers, there are no civilizations. Without rivers, there is no civilizations. So rivers are extremely critical for the sustenance, for the survival of any civilization. But this was what Buhari was asking for. Buhari was asking for, give up your land for the sake of peace. Fortunately, we had pretend God he lost. But as the killing stopped, it has not stopped. And we know what is happening. It has always been a people that are armed with AK-47 that are killing and maiming. I'm going to go back in history and let us trace the Fulani herdsmen migration. The Fulani herdsmen migration is from the Senegal-Guinea axis, from the source of River Niger. They moved their cattle, and this was how they were able to move around all around West Africa, Central Africa, even East Africa. And they've been able, using this issue of cattle rearing, to successfully transport themselves and turn themselves into a transnational and transcontinental ethnicity all across Africa. Until this present moment, for the past 500 years, they've been at war. Whether during the period of the empires, whether during the periods of the nation states, whether during the periods of kingdoms, whether during the periods of the caliphates, whether during the periods of it doesn't matter the geopolitical construct, it has always been the war between the indigenous people and Fulani others. And this is the reality This is not to demonize the Fulanis. It is not. It is for us to understand what they are doing with Nigeria. Many of the Fulanis that settled in the Hausa city states, they came with their cattle. They came with their cattle, and they came with their cattle. And when they came with their cattle, was these cattle that they used for this expansionism all across West Africa. It was these cattle that they used for the way they were able to push themselves all across West Africa. Now, the question you need to ask yourself, where are they attacking us? The Yoruba man listening to me in Kwara State and watching me tonight, you ask yourself, you are just a poor farmer. Why are they attacking you? Because you are the frontier city. You are in the frontier. This has happened in many civilizations of the world. And you have to ask yourself, because we must never forget what happened during the time of Buhari. Because what happened during the time of Buhari is surely going to come. Tinubu will not be the president of Nigeria forever. What happened during the time of Buhari is surely going to happen again. You have to ask yourself, what is the logic? What is the proportionality? How does it make sense that a particular ethnicity armed with AK-47 is killing people all over Nigeria, especially farmers and indigenous people, displacing people and occupying those places? Now you ask yourself this question. You say now you are looking for solutions. The Nigerian states is not looking for how to bring the killers of Nigerians to order. What the Nigerian state is saying is that the indigenous people must give up their land for the sake of peace. That is not peace. That is colonialism. That is expansionism. That is imperialism. That is the subjugation of the indigenous people. And this was what happened for 8 years. This was what we saw we tolerated for 8 years. And I want to tell you that what is happening is conquests. It is from the Sahel to the sea. And we need to understand that this is a phenomenon that has happened all over the world. It has always been that herdsmen, pastoralists, they conquer. The most oftentimes, most pastoralist civilizations, they don't know how to build from the scratch. They attack well-established city-states, well-established kingdoms, attack it, seize the leadership, and take over the power, and they start using the land and the resources, re-engineer it for their own civilization. The Turks, who were pastoralists, who were nomadic people, are a very good example of this. They took over a whole empire, and for the past 600, 700 years, they became a superpower, and they are using it for their own survival till death. The Fulanis did the same thing in Sokoto, in Gobert, in the Hausa city states. The Tutsis did the same thing in Rwanda. These are historical facts. The question is, why are we so docile not to understand what is happening in Nigeria? So that is why you see that there are two diabolical and two dangerous ideology that is currently within Nigeria. As some people are moving, as some people are marching, as some people are transversing with their cattle and with AK-47 and displacing people. And if you observe currently, there are frontier cities, states that have been under constant attack for the past 10 years. These frontier states are places that were not conquered by Usman Dan Fodio. And this is an expansion, because I gave you an example of America and Britain, British imperialism in America when I started this conversation. The British imperialism did not conquer most of those areas of East United States of America. British imperialism did not conquer from the west, from the Atlantic to from the east to the west. They could not conquer the indigenous people. It was just diplomacy. They were living as good neighbors. But it was a manifest destiny. I believe the manifest destiny did not start from the USA. The manifest destiny started from the beginning of British imperialism. And they did not stop. That's why you see America is still looking for how to get more lands in Greenland, because it is a place that was built on expansionism and grabbing more territories. It's never going to stop, because that is the foundation, that is the psyche that gave birth to that state. And you have to look. So you look at, so they didn't stop until they were able to totally erase the indigenous nations, indigenous empires across across Western America. So they call them the West Frontier, West American Frontier. And it was the cowboys that did the dirty job. The cowboys and did the dirty job. Anytime you attack the cowboys, the indigenous people attack the cowboys, they are quick to send message to Washington. And the American government are going to say, oh, you are killing Americans. Oh, you are attacking Americans. You are attacking goods and services. Just the same way that is happening in Nigeria. You are going to see X-Men, when they commit crimes, they kill thousands of people, kill indigenous Christians, indigenous Muslims that are not Fulani. They are going to say, oh, these people are not Nigerians, they are Fulanis from Gambia. Oh, they are Fulanis from Niger. Oh, they are Fulanis from Mali. Oh, they are not part of us. But the day the indigenous people start defending themselves, they'll start saying, oh, you are killing indigenous people. Oh, you are killing you are killing fellow Nigerians. The line has been blurred. And you start asking, you start saying, oh, we need to have peace. Oh, we need to, and you start asking yourself what is going on. That is why many of us raised the alarm. We raised the alarm. And why the NSA was, quote unquote, allegedly called out for empowering Fulani nationalist members, Miyetti Allah, to become vigilantes in Yoruba land without the consent of the Yoruba people, and the killings have not stopped. So let me talk about the frontier states. The frontier states in Nigeria, these states are the states that are currently that are determining life and death for the rest of us. For those of us, quote unquote, that call ourselves Southerners. It is these frontier states. What I'm telling you tonight is not the night to be insulting Yoruba people, be insulting Igbos, to be insulting Ijos, to be insulting Hausas. What I'm discussing tonight, it is to discuss, it is for us to be prepared, to be mentally prepared to understand what is happening in the world. And I'm going to give you this instance. I'm still not done. When I'm done, when I finish telling you the frontier states, I will still go to Sudan. I love the example of Sudan because the Sudan scenario, the Sudan reality is exactly what is happening and has happened in many places in the world. Many of us are 50 years, 40 years, 60 years. Right? We in our lifetime, we've witnessed the wiping out of millions of people. But because we watch it on TV, many of us think it's far. It is not far. Kwara State is not far, brothers and sisters. Kogi State is not far, brothers and sisters. Taraba State is not far. Benue State is not far. Those are the frontier states. Kwara, Benue, Kogi, Taraba. Those are the states between life and death for all Southerners. Those are the buffer states that are fighting for their lives. And that is why, and those places is where the two great rivers in Africa, in West Africa, in the Black World, those are the two places where they meet. Currently, we see that Egypt and Ethiopia are preparing to go to war. Why are they ready to go to war? Because Egypt and Ethiopia are fighting over the control of the Nile River. The Nile River, they are ready to go to war because of it. When you look at the black people, indigenous people, Yoruba people, the thieves, the Birams, give me your ears, the Galas, you are seeing that you are being expunged from your land by a race that is notorious for exterminating and erasing people from their indigenous lands for the past 400 years. Because we are politically correct, we do not understand what is going on. This is not a call for hate. It is for us to understand what is going on within Nigeria. You can't build Pan-Africanism on this. You need to be alive for you to do your Pan-Africanism. I'm talking to you Pan-Africanists, because you need to understand Pan-Africanism did not stop the balkanization of Sudan, because it was a matter of life and death. And the people of South Sudan had to run away and flee from their lives and flee from nomadic Arabs. Now let's go to Darfur. Darfur is a good example. What happened in Darfur was a very good instance. What did Darfur was not conquered for 1,000 years. For 1,000 years, Darfur was not conquered. For 1,000 years, Darfur was not conquered. The people of Darfur fought with their lives. The people of Darfur fought with their lives. And they won. They won the physical war. They won the psychological war. They could not use Islam to break them. They could not use intermarriage to break them. They held down to Darfur, and Darfur was even an empire at a period of time. They built powerful empires. They became Muslims, but that did not stop them. The Arabs kept on coming, and something happened. European imperialism happened. And what the Arabs could not achieve for 1,000 years, European imperialism gave it to them. The Berlin West African Conference happened to them. Darfur was carved into the British colony of Sudan, and political power was given to the Sudanese over the indigenous black Darfuris for the first time in 1,000 years. This was just what they needed. And what happened between 1950 to 2005? The Sudanese Arab-controlled government started promoting the migration of Arabized nomadic people from Chad they started moving into Sudan. They started moving into Sudan. They were giving them money. They were arming them, giving them with guns. These Arabs and these nomadic herdsmen that used to come with stick, all of a sudden came with AK-47. And when they were coming with AK-47, they started fighting with indigenous Darfuri farmers. And when the Darfur people said, no, this is our land, you cannot kill us, don't wipe us from our land. What happened? The Sudanese government was now saying, they are your fellow Sudanese. You need to stop tribalism. Oh, give them land for their pastures. Give them land for their cows. Give them land for their camels. They are just pastoralists. Oh, they are victims of Nigeria, of bad governance. Oh, this pastoralists, they are also victims. Oh, they need to be treated with care. That was the same rhetoric that was said in Darfur. The genocide of Darfur did not start in 2000s. It was gradual. The people of Darfur went from being accommodating hosts to become the biggest victim of black genocide, to be the biggest victims of genocide that has never been seen for the past 100 years, ever since the Holocaust. We saw what happened around November, December, where Arabs, led by Dagolo, was essentially killing thousands of black people in Sudan, Darfur, and the world did not give a damn. Nobody even talks about Darfur anymore. Nobody talks about the Sudan conflict anymore, because the lives of black people do not matter in the scale of things. Your economic power determines your position on the table in the world. It is not your tears. It is not because you think you're human. It is your economic power and your political leverage. And the people, the Darfur, the genocide, the slow motion eradication of the people of Darfur started in the lifetime of many of us. You go to many cities in Darfur now that were black majority. 30, 40 years ago, the majority now is now Arabs. They keep on bringing more and more Arabized pastoralists. The central government, this was the legacies of Omar al-Bashir, the former president of Sudan, where he was giving money to pastoralists, to nomadic herdsmen to come and settle in Darfur, giving them AK-47, arming them to the seats. They created a militia, one of the most bloodiest, ruthless, cold-blooded militias in the world, called the Janjaweed. It was the Janjaweed that was used to totally massacre and destroy the indigenous people of Darfur. And what happened today? Darfur, that used to be a black state, one of the things they also did was to break Darfur into different states. It is not different from what happened to the people in the Northwest, in northern Nigeria, where the ethnic minorities that were not conquered by Usman and Fodio forces were broken into pieces. They were broken into different, into different states. And this was what made it easy for the conquest of Darfur, for the conquest of the indigenous people of northern Nigeria, and now it has happened in Darfur. The same thing happened in the United States of America. Oklahoma, majority of many of the states in America, like Utah, Oklahoma, Wyoming, these were states, Idaho, these are states named after indigenous people. These were names of indigenous lands. These are indigenous lands. Utah, these are names of indigenous people, indigenous territories. So you look like state like Oklahoma, the majority of the indigenous ethnicities, they came together to create, to form, to aggregate together in that place. And they were even trying to say, okay, look, if we continue to fight these American settlers, these cowboys, we are not going to survive. Let us play the American politics. We are indigenous people. Okay, give us our own states within the United States of America. Give us our own states. They said, no. They broke Oklahoma into pieces and turned majority into minorities, pushed many of them into reservations. The conquest, the expansion of America via the use of cowboys as frontier force, as forward battalions from the 19th century to around 1920, where 1913, majority of the American states, the states in America was created during this time. While the cowboys were moving, they were creating states and changing demography. Does it sound familiar to what is happening in Nigeria today? That is exactly what is happening in Nigeria today. Because you have to understand, that is why they are saying that many northern leaders, by the Tinubu government is saying, men are sponsoring terrorism. They are the ones pushing terrorism. And yet Yana is part of it. The Fulani nationalist organization is part of it. There is a lot of things they are not going to allow you to say because they are fearing about the pushback. But there is fire on the mountain. If Kwara falls, if Kogi falls, if Benue falls, if Taraba takes a knee, we are next because they're not going to stop. The agenda of Buhari is the agenda, the ideology of the X-Men, of the cowboy. That's why they call them the X-Men. That's why they anytime you push back, they start saying, oh, you are not a good Nigerian. You start asking, what is, oh, you need to give up your land in order for us to build this Nigeria. And many of us don't actually understand. And you cannot win this war by being angry alone. You cannot win against these odds by being emotional alone. You can only win by understanding what they are trying to do. It is to do what they've done in Sudan in Darfur. It is to do what was done in South Africa. It is to do what was done in the United States of America. So the cowboys and the X-Men are the same. In different lifetime, they are using this as a tool of expansionism.